Every guide to Spain suggests tourists sample the small plates, known as tapas, as they eat their way through the country. Well, that's kind of the approach we took with developing our itinerary, to sample the highlights of Spain, given the relatively limited time that we had to be there. So we hope you'll join us on this sampling expedition as we adventure across Spain, beginning in Barcelona, taking a train to the city of Cordoba, and then renting a car and driving north along the Mediterranean coast. Barcelona is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world due to its Mediterranean vibe, amazing architecture, and fabulous cuisine. Barcelona is the capital of the province of Catalonia and speaks the Catalan language rather than Spanish. They have their own traditions, which are on display as you wander through the city. Barcelona is first and foremost a beach town facing the Mediterranean. We loved exploring the beach, the old fisherman's quarter, the many beachfront cafes serving wine, sangria, and the Aperol Spritz, the harbor, which is full of European super yachts. We spent a lot of time wandering the tiny streets of the Gothic Quarter, hunting the haunts of Pablo Picasso, and enjoying the tapas bars with their fabulous food and cold Spanish beer. Unfortunately, we also saw examples of the kind of bad behavior and crass displays that have caused many Europeans to become turned off on mass tourism. The fabulous architecture of Antoni Gaudí, who worked in the 1880s and 1890s to transform the city of Barcelona with fabulous and whimsical designs. He started at a park high above the city called Park Güell, which is kind of like an amusement park where the architecture is the amusement. However, as you look across the city, his crowning glory is La Sagrada Familia, which officially became the tallest church in the world upon consecration by Pope Leo during his Spain trip in 2026. La Sagrada Familia has been under construction for 144 years. Gaudí knew that he wouldn't live to see the church completed, so he laid out a lot of vision, which involved the amazing light that flows into this inside this huge church. And it really can't be described by someone unless you've seen it. It is the most worthwhile ticket to any in Barcelona, and it's the most beautiful church I've ever seen. We also visited Casa Batlló, which was an apartment building designed on commission for one of Gaudí's benefactors. You might say this fascinating building literally drips charm. After 4 great days in Barcelona, we took our tired feet aboard Spain's bullet train to the ancient and vibrant city of Cordoba. Cordoba dates back to prehistory, but was an important Roman city, was the capital of Islamic Spain for 780 years, and became Christian Catholic in 1492. The highlight of any trip to Cordoba is the UNESCO World Heritage Building, the Mesquita, which is a mosque and cathedral built originally as a mosque in the mid 700s. And then after the expulsion of Muslims from Spain in 1492, a rare decision to not tear it down, both the king and the bishop caused a Catholic cathedral to be built within the courtyard, leaving the rest of the mosque essentially preserved. Maintaining the mosque intact while building the Catholic cathedral was an unusual act of tolerance, because while during the Muslim rule, Jews and Christians culture flourished in Cordoba, when the Catholics took over, the remaining Jews and Muslims were either forced to convert or evicted from Spain. We also explored the Palace of the Catholic Majesties, which contains the throne room where Christopher Columbus met with Ferdinand and Isabella to request support to explore the New World. We completed our time in Cordoba by exploring the ancient Jewish quarter, which is filled with small passageways, ancient buildings, and hidden gems of both shops and restaurants. After 3 busy days in Cordoba, it was time for a bit of a break. We picked up our trusty Fiat rental car and drove across the beautifully maintained autovisas, or motorways, across Spain to the beach town of Oropesa. We soon learned that there were really two Oropesas: the older town, which caters primarily to Spanish tourists, and the marina, which is largely built for foreign tourists, largely British expats. And that's where our apartment was located. This was by far the most modern place we stayed on the entire trip. And the views from there over the Mediterranean, particularly in the mornings with the sunrise, were outstanding. For 2 days, we did very little. Walked the beach, checked out the tapas bars, caught up on laundry, and of course, visited the local Aldi so Marybeth could check out the Isle of Shame. Feeling refreshed, we headed north in our car and made a several-hour stop at the city of Tarragona. Tarragona was the Roman capital of the entire Iberian Peninsula province and has some amazing remains and architectural delights from that period. We particularly enjoyed the Roman amphitheater, which sits right on the Mediterranean Sea. This amphitheater, which seated 3,000 people, was the site of lots of spectacles of Roman military prowess, gladiator battles, and other blood and gore. We had a lovely lunch at a cafe overlooking the amphitheater, and then went to explore the remains of the Roman hippodrome. The hippodrome is essentially like a race course that's 2 miles in length and surrounded by stone bleachers. What remains is just one corner of the hippodrome. You can see a set of stands where the spectators sat. There's also underground passages that allowed everyone to get to their seats, and a set of rooms where the charioteers got themselves ready for the race. These buildings were awe-inspiring, and the level of preservation after 2,000 years was very impressive. We continued on that day to our destination, the village of Sant Sadurni de Anoia, which is known as the capital of Cava. Cava is the Spanish sparkling wine. Cordon and Freshenet are the two international brands, but there's probably about 30 other boutique Cava cellars throughout the town. The first order of business when arriving in the village was to find our Airbnb. It was on a narrow street in an old part of town, and we had to park the Fiat in a garage that was about 6 inches larger than the car itself. The next day we chose to do a tour of Cordon wine cellar due to its beautiful buildings and iconic underground cellar tour. We started off with a tasting and then climbed down into the cellar, got aboard one of the electric trams, and took a tour of the labyrinth of underground tunnels where the Cava matures. Later that evening, we set out to stroll from our Airbnb through the town and perhaps find a place to eat dinner. We were astonished to see that on the street that our townhouse fronted on, people were dragging chairs and tables out into the road. It turned out to be an entire village al fresco dining event, so we promptly grabbed a table, ordered a bottle of cava, and several rounds of Catalonian tapas. To us, this was the epitome of the Mediterranean good life. The next morning, which was our last full day with the rent-a-car, we visited the Abbey of Montserrat, which was founded in 1025 CE and is accessible only by a cog railroad. The abbey is built right into the mountains, and it serves as the home of the Madonna of Montserrat, also known as the Black Madonna. This holy place of Catalan people was visited by Pope Leo in June. We were astonished as you could almost touch the Black Madonna, you got so close. And overall, we came away with this feeling that it was an incredibly spiritual place. After visiting the Abbey, we dropped off our rental car, and the next day we spent a full day in Barcelona, really without any sightseeing objectives, but just to relax, sample the city delights, and prepare for the long flight home.